everyone, it's Heather Moxie and welcome to my channel. In this week's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make this DIY small table. And one of my favorite things about this table is that it can be used in several different ways. You can use it as an entryway table, a sofa table, or even as a laptop table, as I will be doing. This is something that I try to keep in mind for anything that I make. I want it to have purpose in the space that we're living in now, but also have the potential to become something else if we ever change spaces. So stick around if you'd like to see how you can make this multifunctional table. For supplies, I like to roll out some drop paper, and you can get a roll of this at any hardware store. I've listed all of the additional supplies that you will be needing, and depending on how you decide to design your table, some of these might change. You can either take a screenshot of what you see now, or head down to the description box where I always list everything that I use, as well as everything that you will definitely need for a project. Legs, I chose to go with a color block effect, and I actually got this idea from Jen over at City Farmhouse through Pinterest. So to do this, I taped off the last 6 inches of each table leg, and I took them outside and spray painted 2 to 3 light coats of paint. This may be a little different if you decide to use a different color, but with white it was pretty simple. Afterwards, I removed the painter's tape before the paint had time to dry completely and left them outside overnight to dry. After the bottom portion of the legs is dry, you can use a sanding block to smooth out any rough edges or imperfections, and then move on to the next step of painting. I picked up a tester pot of HGTV's Sherwin paint in Anew gray. For my table, it acts as a nice transition color between the stain on the tabletop and the white on the bottom portion of the legs, and it gives it just enough character to be